Okay, good morning everyone. So atong ipadadson ang naudlot nato nga discussion gahapon. My apologies saon man nga nakig-meeting man naho ang university president, and of course I have to address his concern. But anyhow, atong ipadadson ang atong discussion. So last meeting or yesterday, atong naisgutan ang relationship between propositions A and O. And this would also apply to propositions E and I. Okay? A and O, E and I. And as what we have learned yesterday, kani nga mga propositions are contradictory propositions. They are contradictory because they have different quantities and qualities. While proposition A is universal, O, it's contradictory. Proposition O is particular. While A is affirmative, O is negative. The same case with E and I. While E is universal, I is particular. E is negative, while I is affirmative or positive. So these are contradictory propositions. And what does this imply? So may ipasabot ni ini. According to the rule, contradictory propositions cannot be true at the same time. They cannot be true at the same time. If A is true, then it's contradictory. O must be false. If O is true, then it's contradictory. A must be false. The same with E and I. If I is true, E is false. If E is true, I is false. Inaana ang contradictory propositions. So that kung maiyon ta, all men are mortal. All men are mortal. This is an A proposition, therefore this is a universal affirmative. What will be its contradictory? Okay, O. Some men are not mortal. Some men are not mortal. Take note ha, all men are mortal is universal affirmative, while some men are not mortal, proposition O is particular negative. So in this case, kung maiyon ta, all men are mortal is true, then it's contradictory. Some men are not mortal must be false. Okay? Mulibot ipasabot sa rule. Contradictory propositions cannot be true at the same time. If A is true, O must be false. And if O is true, then A must be false. So for example, we say, some animals are not aquatic. Some animals are not aquatic. False. So to say all animals are true. Some animals are not aquatic is true. Then to say all animals are aquatic must be false. Okay? Because according to the rule, I repeat, contradictory propositions cannot be both true or cannot be true at the same time. The same with falsity. No? They cannot be true and false at the same time. So for example, you will say, some of your classmates are foreigners. False. Kay naabada ay Amerikano ninjo. Naabada ay Koreano or Japanese. Wa. So kung may iyon ta nga, some of your classmates are foreigners is false. So to say, all your classmates are not foreigners must be true. Because if I is false, E is true. Kuha, nasabtan, mao na ang establishment of truth when it comes to contradictory propositions. Contradictory propositions, these are propositions that have different quality and quantity. While A is universal, the contradictory O is particular. While A is affirmative, O is negative. On the other side, if E, universal negative, and its contradictory is I, particular affirmative. And with these propositions, they cannot be both true and false at the same time. Kuha, nasabtan? So later on, I will give you some exercises so that you can practice, no? And you also have to memorize, no? Kindly memorize this. For contradictory propositions, these are propositions that cannot be both true and false at the same time. So if A is true, O is false. If A is false, O is true. If E is true, I is false. If E is false, I is true. So far, mao ni ang pinaka-easy, pinaka-sadyon among the relations of these propositions, A, E, I, and O. Okay, so shall we proceed? Padadson ta? Okay, so let's proceed to the relationship between A and E. Propositions A and E. A and E are both universal. A is universal, E is universal. They have the same quantity, but they differ in quality because A is affirmative and E is negative. Their relationship is called contrary propositions. Contrary propositions. No? Contrary propositions are propositions that have the same quantity. Both are universal, but they differ in quality since proposition A is affirmative and proposition E is negative. So when you say all men are mortal, that is proposition A, its contrary is unsa man? All men are not. Now take note, negative copula, are not mortal. All men are not mortal. That is proposition E. Okay? So contrary propositions are propositions A and E. They have the same quantity. Both are universal, but they have different quality since proposition A is affirmative while proposition E is negative. So what is the rule that we have to follow in contrary propositions in terms of determining the truth of these propositions? The rule says, for contrary propositions, these are propositions that cannot be both true at the same time, but can be both false. Okay? Contrary propositions are propositions that cannot be both true at the same time. So, dili pwedeng parehong tinuod ang A ug E. No? Kay mo nagisulti sa rule sa contrary propositions. So, if you say all students are literate. All students are literate. Tanan kunong mga estudyante are literate. Unsa man ang literate? Maka-read o maka-write, makabasa o makasuwat. Mao nay literate. So, all students are literate. And that is true. No, that is proposition A, universal affirmative. All students are literate. What will be its contrary? Its contrary is proposition E. So, the proposition will be all students are not literate. All students are not literate. So, for example, with proposition A, all students are literate, ug moingon ta nga this is true, then its contrary propositions, all students are not literate, must be false. Correct, no? Tungod kay mao man ang giingon sa rule. Contrary propositions cannot be both true at the same time.